Hey guys, and welcome back to Middle-earth Updates. We've just had a wave of news about the hunt for Gollum that we're going to break down, with updates from Peter Jackson, Andy Serkis, Viggo Mortensen, and even the CEO of Warner Bros. Himself. And some of the stuff that they've said is pretty remarkable. We're talking multiple new Lord of the Rings movie scripts, hints about the exact timeline for the hunt for Gollum, and even some whispers of which actors might be returning. And in case you didn't already know, The Hunt for Gollum is a prequel to The Lord of the Rings, set both before and parallel to the events of the Fellowship of the Ring. Think of it as the Rogue One of The Lord of the Rings. The film is directed by Andy Serkis and produced and written by Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, the same creative team behind the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. And speaking of Peter Jackson, we've just learned something new about exactly how he is involved in this project. Even though Peter's always been attached to this project as a producer, some fans were a little worried that he didn't seem to be involved creatively in any other way. But no need to worry. In a recent interview with Josh Wilding, Peter Jackson seemingly confirmed that he is indeed involved in developing the script.
Well, we're developing a script for the Hunt for Gollum, which is a Lord of the Rings connected movie that Andy Serkis, who played Gollum, he'll actually direct the movie, but we're working on the script and producing it. So that's something for next year. Yeah.
And Peter further states he is also involved in the script when speaking to Variety in a very recent interview, saying the following: "We are producing and have been writing The Hunt for Gollum, which Andy Serkis is going to direct next year. So this project is definitely moving forward, and it seems like they have a really good plan for it now." But then he says something rather remarkable that is quite interesting. "We are currently working on 3 different screenplays. I'm at the moment writing 3 different scripts." But just to be clear, he doesn't specifically say that this is for the Lord of the Rings, but we do know that they are planning to make more Lord of the Rings movies. I think the other movies are in very, very early planning stages, and they might actually want to see how The Hunt for Gollum does before they commit to making more movies. But with that being said, them wanting to plan out ahead, and Peter Jackson obviously being a huge part of The Hunt for Gollum, it's not impossible that the other 2 scripts that he is working on could also be related to the Lord of the Rings. By the way, if you enjoy staying up to date with all things Middle-earth, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and we will keep bringing you these updates. During a recent earnings call, Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav spoke about how the Lord of the Rings is one of their most important IPs, as well as sharing his initial thoughts on the fresh script for The Hunt for Gollum.
You know, I've said all along that one of the assets that we have at this company is that we have so much compelling storytelling IP that people know everywhere in the world, whether it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Lord of the Rings, and then we'll call those the big tentpoles, Harry Potter. And a piece of our strategy is light up strategically those big tentpoles so that we have 2 or 3 of those a year, which provide real stability. We got a great script on Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson that we're moving forward on, and we'll be giving you more detail on that.
To me, this sounds very promising. Not only that the script for The Hunt for Gollum is reportedly very good, but also that the Lord of the Rings IP is clearly a high priority for Warner Bros. This bodes well for more new Lord of the Rings content, both in the form of movies and hopefully more games. He also promises that we'll get more details on The Hunt for Gollum, and that's hopefully soon. Of course, his praise for the script should be taken with a grain of salt. This is in an earnings call, and he is the CEO, so naturally he's only gonna say good things about the movie. But still, it does sound promising. And with the first draft of the script now seemingly finished, the movie is moving into its next phase, the pre-production. In a recent interview with Silkway, Andy Serkis spoke about returning to New Zealand and beginning preparations for the film.
We've just finished the first part of the writing process, where I'm shortly going to be going back to New Zealand, end of August, beginning of September, and then there's a period of preparation, and then we start shooting middle of next year, and the film will be released in December 27.
Which is something he also confirmed at the Duke City Comic Con, where he mentioned the same timeline about pre-production now, filming in the middle of next year, and then having about a year's worth of visual effects before the movie is done. Then he was asked about when the movie is set in the timeline, and he did finally confirm that the movie is indeed set in between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
It's its own unique piece, but it sits kind of in the timeline between The Hobbit, between losing the ring to Bilbo Baggins and the Lord of the Rings. So it's that period of time, and obviously I can't go into any detail about what happens in the story, but it's a very deep dive exploration into the psychology and background of Smeagol and Gollum.
In the books, the hunt for Gollum takes place during the 17-year gap between Gandalf leaving Bag End to investigate Bilbo's ring.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
And his return to the Shire to warn Frodo.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
In the movies, this period was condensed significantly, likely to just a few months at most. Since the announcement, we've speculated that the film version might explore more than only this period, potentially reaching back even further to when Gollum first loses the ring in The Hobbit. And this is the first time, however, that they have officially confirmed that this will indeed be the timeline for the movie. We do actually have a very lengthy, in-depth Hunt for Gollum story video if you're interested, where we explore the entire timeline and all of the different storylines that this movie could contain, as it is a way more interesting story than a lot of people think. The Hobbit was famously split first into 2 movies and then 3, and there was a report going around that the Hunt for Gollum would be split into 2 movies. This was quickly debunked by writer and producer Philippa Boyens, and in this interview Andy Serkis confirms that as well.
Will be a one-part movie, not trilogy?
This one is no. This film is a single film, but there is the Return to Middle Earth will hopefully be a series of films after.
He was then also asked about returning actors, because so far the only official returning actor is Andy himself as Gollum.
And who is returning? Viggo Mortensen as...
I can't tell you that.
Okay, all right.
I can't. I mean, what we do know is that there will be some returning cast. Sure.
Okay.
And this is actually quite big, because so far they haven't really said anything about that. They've said that they want to have some actors back and that they've spoken to them, but at least he confirms that there will be multiple returning cast members for sure. Who this is hard to say, but I do feel like if they take some of the old cast back, it's kind of an all or nothing situation, as it would be very strange if they recast half of the actors and kept half of them. But we will get more into these potential actors in other interviews in a moment. Next up, we have arguably one of the most important actors to hopefully return in the movie, Viggo Mortensen. In a recent interview, he said that he would be open to returning as he had a very good time on The Lord of the Rings, but that he isn't sure exactly how they would do it.
I'm not exactly sure what they would do. I know what the idea of it is. I'm not sure technically how they would pull it off, but knowing Peter Jackson or his team and Andy Serkis, these are very clever, inventive people, and The Lord of the Rings I saw people solving all kinds of problems all the time and doing things that you thought, well, how are they going to do that? And they would find a way to do it, so who knows? I mean, I'm open to it, sure. I had a good experience working on that.
It's pretty obvious in this interview that he has spoken to Andy and the team, and it honestly wouldn't be impossible that he's already signed and is on board, but he's just trying to keep it a secret. It's just something about the way he acts in this interview that kind of makes it seem like he's hiding something, but it could just be me reading into it a little bit too much. But it is interesting to see how he could return, because I'm not sure how well it would be for an older Viggo to reprise a younger Aragorn. It would require a lot of makeup and CGI, which maybe isn't the right way to go, but in that case, how would he be involved? And just to add to that, in case you haven't seen our previous videos, both Ian McKellen and Orlando Bloom has also mentioned that they want to return as Gandalf and Legolas in The Hunt for Gollum. So the majority of the actors who play the main characters in The Lord of the Rings want to return for the movie. The only one who said who doesn't want to return is Hugo Weaving as Elrond, which is a bit of a shame, as Elrond would actually be a quite important figure during this timeline, but maybe he changes his mind or they find a way to work around that somehow. And next up, we have some intriguing words from another legendary Lord of the Rings actor who recently spoke with Collider about his potential return in The Hunt for Gollum. And this actor is none other than John Rhys-Davies, who played Gimli in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. In the most part of the interview, they talk about his struggles in Lord of the Rings with the prosthetic makeup that he had to put on every day and how it even permanently damaged his skin. He also later says he actually turned down the return as Gimli once before when asked to return in The Hobbit, it for this very reason, as he didn't want to suffer through that makeup process once again. But when he was asked about the hunt for Gollum and a potential return, he said the following: "Well, I'm known to not want to put that prosthetic on again. But out of deference to Andy, whom I love and admire, and again who has grown so much, if they invited me, oh god, could I dare put on that makeup again and lose my skin? Maybe with CGI." So he goes on to say that he is indeed open to returning as Gimli as long as he doesn't have to go through that tedious, damaging makeup process, which I think would be doable with today's technology. But would Gimli fit or be necessary for the story? He wouldn't be central to the main story with Gollum, but around the same time a lot of interesting stuff happened in Middle-earth, such as a messenger from Mordor is sent to Erebor to try and find the ring, which is what causes Gloin and Gimli to go to the Council of Elrond, so it wouldn't be unthinkable to see him return, even if it would just be for a smaller role. So there are definitely a lot of interesting stuff happening surrounding the Lord of the Rings franchise and the hunt for Gollum specifically. I do know that a lot of people are very skeptical to this project because of its many struggles. I think story-wise there's no issues at all. If you've seen our Hunt for Gollum story video, you'll know that there are so many interesting storylines and events that they could portray in the movie, so finding interesting stuff to show, there's no problem at all. The problem is that a lot of it relies on characters who have been portrayed by actors that have aged a lot. So they're either gonna have to recast everyone except for like Gollum, or they're gonna have to use a lot of digital de-aging or CGI, which can be done very well in this day and age, but if your entire movie relies on that, I feel like it's a big risk, and that it's gonna be fully compared to The Lord of the Rings, which is something that is pretty much impossible to compete with. So even though I'm very excited for this project and it could turn out fantastically, there is a lot of things that could go wrong. Luckily, they do of course have a great team with the 3 writers and producers behind The Lord of the Rings, as well as Andy directing, so if anyone's gonna succeed, it's definitely them. And before we wrap up the video, we just wanted to give a quick shout out to our merch store at meupdates.shop, and we recently launched a couple of new shirt designs, as well as this pint glass, coupled with of course all the previous designs we already have. We appreciate each and every one of you pick something up, and it makes us really happy when we see the comments from you guys mentioning how much you like the merch. So if you're interested, meupdates.shop. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Middle-earth. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the light of the Eldar be with you.